Hey, this is Miss Linder, and we've got some reminders from the bird. Okay, don't forget when you are working with slope that we have the ski bird to help us out. We've got the positive slope, the negative slope, and I have changed this to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. It's still the same thing as long as you're keeping your y's rising like a little balloon and your x's running like little feet, okay? The two that I want to make sure that I point out again is zero slope and slope undefined or no slope. Remember, this one is the one where he would say, oh, no, because he's going to end up crushing his beak. All right, so this equation for this line for zero slope, you'll notice it's going through the y-axis. So that means we have y is equal. And it's going through at -1. That line is -1. So your equation for this line is just y equals -1. All right, for the no slope or slope undefined, if they're asking for an equation, which that's typically what they're going to ask, then you have to show that it's going through the x-axis. So you have x is equal, and it's going through at -2. So your equation would be y, or x equals -2. So that's just a reminder from the bird. Okay, so on your notes, on the first several, you have room to do the notes on this paper, but eventually you're going to need to have a separate sheet of paper. All right, so let's see. The directions state plug 0 for y and solve for x, which will give us our x-intercept. Then we're going to plug in 0 for x and solve for y, giving us the y-intercept. So the first thing I want you to do is draw two arrows because we have two equations. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to say that x is equal to 0 and y would be equal to 0. So we're going to do this formula 2 times. So the first time, x is equal to 0. So I'm going to write 0 plus y is equal to 1. So when I add a -0, actually there's no such thing, add 0 to both sides, we're left with y is equal to 1. Well, that gives us an ordered pair. It gives us our x is 0 and our y is 1. All right, so let's move to the other equation. Now we're going to throw 0 in for y. So we have x plus 0 will equal 1. So x is equal to 1, and now we have our ordered pair. The x was 1, and the y was 0. So you have gone ahead and solved the standard form because you plugged in 0 for y the first time. Well, we did 0 for x, and then y for 0. It does not matter the order. I like to keep it so that I know my x and y's, so I keep some type of order. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of things in our lesson today, and one of the things that I want to talk to you about is the fact that we have been working with a y-intercept. So that's where that line has been going through the y-axis. Well, today we're also going to be talking about the x-intercept. So this is where the line is going to hit the x-axis, okay? And there are two types of formulas we're going to be working with. All right, so the two equations you would be working with when you're talking about lines is linear equation, which that's the one we've been using with the slope and the bomb, the y-intercept, and then we also have standard form. Now you've actually been working with standard form and we've been changing it because we've been solving for y. Well, today we're going to be using standard form and the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So I wanted to kind of give you some background to where you've been and where we're headed. All right, so let's work with number 2. I see that I have a subtraction, so I'm going to ask that you rewrite it with your additive inverse taking place, and don't forget this affects the power of 1. Don't forget that that negative affects the y because we have a -1 in front of it. So I'm going to rewrite your equation. Then we're going to do our two little arrows. The first time we're going to say x is equal to 0, and then y is equal to 0. So for the first equation, I'm going to throw in 0 for x. So 0 plus a negative 1y is equal to 1. I'm going to solve for y. So I have a negative 1 dividing to both sides, so that leaves me y is equal to negative 1. My ordered pair is 0 because x was 0, and the y was found as negative 1. All right, let's look at the next one. We're going to plug in 0 for y, so I have x plus negative 1 times 0 is equal to 1. So 0 times any number will give me 0, so x is equal to 1. And I have found my ordered pair of 1, 0. Okay, let's go ahead and move to number 3. Give yourself your two arrows. X is equal to 0, and y is equal to 0. So the first time I'm going to plug in 0 for x, so 0 plus y is equal to negative 1, so y is equal to negative 1. My ordered pair would be 0, negative 1. Then I plug in 0 for y, so I have x plus 0 is equal to negative 1. So x is equal to negative 1. And I've found my ordered pair. X is negative 1 and y is 0. All right, I want you to go ahead and do number 4 on your own and just make sure you take care of additive inverse first. All right, I went ahead and changed additive inverse, and I plugged in 0 for x, and I received the point of 0, 1. And I plugged in y equals 0, and I got x was equal to negative 1. So my ordered pair were 0, 1, and negative 1, 0. Go ahead and do number 5 on your own. All right, I made sure that I had that power of 1 in front of the x, which gave me a negative 1x plus y is equal to negative 1. Then I plugged in 0, and my ordered pair was 0, negative 1. And then for the second equation, I plugged in 0 for y, which gave me a x is equal to a positive 1. So my ordered pair was 1, 0. All right, go ahead and do number 6 on your own. All right, there is the work for number 6. So you should have had 0 is equal 0 and negative 1, and then negative 1 and 0. Okay, at this point you're going to need a separate sheet of paper. So you're going to need to have these notes on that separate sheet of paper because you're also going to be graphing, but you do not have enough room for the work. All right, so for number 7, I see that I need to take care of additive inverse. And we're going to do the same process. So I have 2x plus the negative 3y is equal to 6. So I'm going to have 2 separate, because I'm finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So I have here x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. So we're going to plug in 0 for x. So 2 times 0 plus a negative 3y is equal to 6. So that gives me negative 3y is equal to 6. Divide both sides by negative 3, so y is equal to a negative 2. So my ordered pair would be 0, negative 2. All right, let's go to the second one. We're now going to plug in 0 for y. So I have 2x plus negative 3 times the 0 is equal to 6. That gives me 2x is equal to 6. So x is equal to 3. My ordered pair would be 3, 0. Now that you have these ordered pairs, you can go ahead and take care of graphing those ordered pairs. So let's go ahead and look at your graph. Okay, here we have now the graph. So turn to your notes for number 7 in the graph. I need you to make sure that you write down that we had 0, -2, and 3, 0. And now we're going to plot those locations. So 0, -2 was our y-intercept, and 3, 0 is the x-intercept. We're going to draw our straight line. We're going to give the arrows on both sides. So now we have graphed it from standard form, showing the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So on your assignment and on your notes, make sure that you've listed the ordered pairs, both of them, and that you've graphed with your line. All right, we're going to do number 8. So you need to go back to your regular note paper. Going to do 2 of them. First time, x will be equal to 0, then y will be equal to 0. I could go ahead and put down my ordered pairs. So 0 in for x and 0 in for y. So 4 times the 0 plus y will give me 8. So that gives me 0 plus y, so y was equal to 8. And then 4x plus the 0. So 4x equals 8. So x is equal to 2. So these are now your ordered pairs that you're going to take and put on your graph. We're going to make sure that we write them on our graph. And then we're going to plot them. So 0, 8 was on our y-axis, and 2, 0 is on the x-axis. And then we're going to draw our straight line as straight as Miss Linder can do, because I don't have a ruler. And we have now graphed our standard formula. All right, I see additive inverse for number 9. Take care of that. So I have x will be equal to 0, and y would be equal to 0. And now I'm going to plug in and solve. So 0 plus a -3y is equal to -6. -3y is equal to -6. So y is equal to a +2. And then x plus the -3 times the 0 is equal to -6. So x is equal to -6. And now I have my 2 intercepts, my y-intercept and my x-intercept, and we're going to graph them. All right, I'm going to graph my first one, -6, 0, and 0, 2. And I'm going to draw my straight line showing it's going through the x-axis and the y-axis. All right, are you ready to make this a little easier? I want you to pick up your finger, and I want you to put your finger over the 2y. So since we would plug in 0 for y, we basically eliminated that set. So we would be left with 7x is equal to 14. The same thing goes for when we have x is equal to 0. Put your finger over the 7x. That gives us 2y is equal to 14. So now what we're going to do is we're going to still draw the 2 arrows. We're going to do 7x is equal to 14, and then 2y is equal to 14. Because what's happening with the zeros is we're canceling it out. So that's one less step that we have to worry about. So let's go ahead and solve the first one. So x is equal to 7. So we know the y was equal to 0. So the answer would be 7, 0. On the second one, we're solving for y. Oops, that's a 2. Yay, I caught it before we went anywhere. 2. So y was equal to 7. So my x was equal to 0. So my ordered pair would be 0, 7. So it's one easier step. So now that I have my 2 ordered pairs, I can go and graph them. So my point is at 2, 0, and 0, 7. And I'm going to make my straight line, that wasn't too bad, with my arrows, and I have done my job. Okay, let's set up number 11 together, and then you're going to work it on your own. So the first thing we're going to do is put in our mental brain that 6 times the 0 would give us canceling out the y. So the first side is going to be 3x is equal to negative 18. And the other part is going to be 6y is equal to negative 18. All right, go ahead and pause the video and work from there. All right, so you should have solved and received x is 6 and y is the negative 3, and you have your 2 ordered pairs. So now we need to graph. All right, so we have 6, 0, and 0, negative 3. So 6, 0, and 0, negative 3. And then we have our line. All right, I want you to do 12, 13, and 14 on your own. When you press play, all I'm going to do is give you the ordered pairs for 12, 13, and 14 and the graph. So you need to do them on your own, graph them, and then check. Answers to number 12. And your graph, negative 2, 0, and 0, negative 5. For number 13, negative 7, 0, and 0, negative 5. And here is your graph, negative 7, 0, 0, negative 5, and your line. Sorry that was not perfect. All right, for number 14, you have negative 8, 0, and 0, negative 7. And then you have graphed at 0, negative 7, and 8, negative 8, 0. All right, let's look at number 15. Number 15 states x is equal to 0. So that means that we already know the equation of the line. All right, so that means that we're going to be shooting through the x-axis at 6. So that was that reason why we reminded about Ski Bird. And for number 16, we are looking at y was equal to negative 2. So we're going through the y-axis at negative 2. No need to put a point. We're just showing where that horizontal line would be. All right, this has been Lesson 25 Notes on the standard form. Make sure that you're doing your work on your paper, that I should see notes from that work, and we will be working on this in class. And thanks a lot for watching.